The proud person always wants to do the right thing, the great thing. But because he wants to do it in his own strength, he is fighting not with man, but with God. Many of us pursue pleasure with such breathless haste that we hurry past it. The highest and most beautiful things in life are not to be heard about, nor read about, nor seen, but, if one will, are to be lived. It is so hard to believe because it is so hard to obey. There is nothing with which every man is so afraid as getting to know how enormously much he is capable of doing and becoming. It is very important in life to know when your cue comes. If you want to be loathsome to God, just run with the herd. The task must be made difficult, for only the difficult inspires the noble-hearted. The present state of the world and the whole of life is diseased. If I were a doctor and were asked for my advice, I should reply, create silence. The only intelligent tactical response to life's horror is to laugh defiantly at it. It belongs to the imperfection of everything human that man can only attain his desire by passing through its opposite. People understand me so little that they do not even understand when I complain of being misunderstood. It is a frightful satire and an epigram on the modern age that the only use it knows for solitude is to make it a punishment, a jail sentence. To be lost in spiritlessness is the most terrible thing of all. For he who loves God without faith reflects on himself, while the person who loves God in faith reflects on God. For love is exultant when it unites equals, but it is triumphant when it makes that which was unequal equal in love. Faith is the highest passion in a human being. Many in every generation may not come that far, but none comes further. Don't forget to love yourself. Whoever has learned to be anxious in the right way has learned the ultimate. Only the person who is essentially capable of remaining silent is capable of speaking essentially. Life can only be understood backwards, but it must be lived forwards. The function of prayer is not to influence God, but rather to change the nature of the one who prays. People demand freedom of speech as a compensation for the freedom of thought which they seldom use. Life is not a problem to be solved, but a reality to be experienced. There are two ways to be fooled. One is to believe what isn't true, the other is to refuse to believe what is true. The most common form of despair is not being who you are. It is perfectly true, as philosophers say, that life must be understood backwards. But they forget the other proposition, that it must be lived forwards. The most painful state of being is remembering the future, particularly the one you'll never have. Love is the expression of the one who loves, not of the one who is loved. Those who think they can love only the people they prefer do not love at all. Love discovers truths about individuals that others cannot see. What if everything in the world were a misunderstanding? What if laughter were really tears? To dare is to lose one's footing momentarily. Not to dare is to lose oneself. The tyrant dies and his rule is over, the martyr dies and his rule begins. To venture causes anxiety, but not to venture is to lose oneself. and to venture in the highest is precisely to be conscious of oneself. Face the facts of being what you are, for that is what changes what you are. God creates out of nothing. Wonderful, you say. Yes, to be sure, but he does what is still more wonderful, he makes saints out of sinners. If anyone on the verge of actions should judge himself according to the outcome, he would never begin. Many of us pursue pleasure with such breathless haste that we hurry past it. The highest and most beautiful things in life are not to be heard about, nor read about, nor seen, but, if one will, are to be lived. It is the duty of the human understanding to understand that there are things which it cannot understand. The self-assured believer is a greater sinner in the eyes of God than the troubled disbeliever.